How are you?
All right, well, I think we're ready to go ahead and get started. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you to St. Rita. I'm so glad that you chose to come and spend some time with us to kind of see what we got going on here in the building from an architectural perspective. It is a very unique facility. Not that many churches are built in the postmodern style, and so we are one of the few churches that are. And so I'll be sharing with you some of the details of the style, the materials. I'll be able to answer questions that you may have about anything that you might see. Between myself and Dr. Van and others, we'll probably know the answer. But give you a little bit of background, because I think it's very helpful before you go on the tour to kind of set the stage for what you'll be seeing. St. Rita was formed in 1919, and it was not great conditions that caused the parish to be formed. Those of you who are students of Indiana history, you know that we had a group that had three letters.
Yeah.
And they were very pervasive in the Indianapolis area. Matter of fact, the Grand Dragon lived in Irvington. The headquarters of the clan was at the corner of Washington Street and Virginia Avenue, where just right across from where the old Roslyn Bakery used to be. That little point right there on the second floor, that was the national headquarters of the clan here in Indianapolis. And so they did not want the churches to integrate. And so they put a lot of pressure on the churches, Catholic churches, Protestant churches, it didn't matter. They didn't want you having an integrated congregation. And so it was somewhat dangerous in some respects, because the students at the grade schools were under threat. And so Archbishop Chartrand, who used to have a high school named after him on the south side, he decided that it would be a good idea that we create a parish specifically for Black Catholics. And that ultimately ended up being St. Rita in 1919 by moving the Knights of Columbus Chapel from Fort Harrison. It was moved to the area behind this church building today. It still stands, but it's structurally unsound, and it's going to eventually have to come down. But that's the original St. Rita Church and school, four-room school building church right behind us here. In 1935, a priest from Lagudi, Indiana, was assigned to this parish, and his name was Bernard Strange. And he embraced his activity, his new job, and started thinking about ways that he can improve the lives of his parishioners. And so he went on a constant effort to improve St. Rita. For a while, we had a school, St. Bridget, which is now torn down, right at St. Clair and West Street, now MLK. We kind of shared schools, bused back and forth, because we didn't have enough space here. So in the 1950s, we finally had enough money to start building. And so the current building that you're going to see is constructed in 1958. And like I said, it's in the postmodern style. Most churches are kind of what I call ecclesiastically style, where they look like a major cathedral, a miniature version of a cathedral. Our church is nothing like that. He pushed the envelope and said, hey, we're going to do something different. And he was told he couldn't do it because he didn't have enough money. But when he came to the archdiocese, he had enough money to build the church without debt. And that was from fundraising here. Things they used to do was they'd sell off a ton of coal and sell dollar tickets to raffle off coal, because back in the 50s, people were still burning coal and oil. And so, you'd make money there. He'd buy an old house, fix it up, and auction the house off. And then we had bingo and things of that nature. And there's a quick story I'll tell you about that. St. Rita has a number of firsts. We were the test case for what is called the Hoskins Law, and that was a law that allowed religious organizations to participate in charitable fundraising activities such as bingo and pull tabs and things of that nature without being under scrutiny of the law. That was challenged in 1954, and St. Rita was the test case for the Hoskins Law. They arrested one of our parishioners who was selling tickets. And so long story short, we won the case, and as a result of that, now you all can participate in videos and all these other things for charitable purposes. So, but that was very specific contribution of St. Rita. We have a number of things that we're first for, and but since this is an architectural tour, I'm not going to go into those, but I'll be happy to share those with you later if you want to know more about some of the firsts that we had, because there's a number of firsts. So the architect of the buildings was Charles M. Brown and Associates, Senior. He is a local Indianapolis architect. He did a number of churches here in the Midwest, and the firm is still in existence today by his son, but I couldn't find anything recently that they had built. The construction engineers for the building and the bell tower was Francis A. Wilhelm and Associates, F.A. Wilhelm. And you may notice their name if you drive around all the construction sites downtown, because those are Wilhelm sites primarily. Some of the more recent notable projects that he did was the J.W. Marriott Hotel, the Idle George Museum, Convention Center, Union Station Restoration, Indiana State Museum, the Children's Museum, and St. Rita Church.
Wow.
So a great architectural legacy. When you came up, you probably saw that all the brickwork is kind of like a buff-colored brick, and that brick came out of a pit at St. Mary's Lake in South Bend. It's also called Notre Dame brick, because Notre Dame is built out of the brick that came out of that muck pond up there in South Bend. It is a very desirable material because it's very hard. It withstands weather very well. All the historical buildings in Notre Dame are made of this brick, and somehow our priest made arrangements for our buildings to be built out of that same brick. The quarry closed down in 1899, so this brick is highly prized throughout the construction industry, and when a building goes down, it's torn down in South Bend, all of the brick is salvaged because it's Notre Dame brick and it's highly prized. So that's just kind of a little bit of a teaser. The walls that you see here in our chapel are Indiana sandstone. So it's a native stone. I like the colors of it very, very much, and it kind of reminds you that Indiana was under the seas at one point, and all this compression created this beautiful sandstone that we see in the building. And you'll notice that sandstone throughout the rest of the church as well. The mosaic tiles and the tile and the stonework that you'll see here in the church also has local heritage. It is from Santa Rosa Mosaic and Tile Company, which is still in business today. They were established in 1924 by Italian immigrants, and we utilize them to do all of the marble work and stone work on the inside of the church, as well as all the terrazzo floors in the church. And so I actually graduated from high school with the grandson of Santa Rosa. John Santa Rosa and I are classmates, so all of the stuff is tying together. So let's go ahead and take our first look into some of the church facilities. We're going to be...
You got a question?
Oh.
Is it okay to take photographs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can. And please stay with the tour group. Do not, go out and because we have some things that if you broke it, your insurance policy would be hitting you for probably $500,000. So you want to be careful and stay within the church group tour. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have along the way, but I have some great things to share with you. Another question? Any more? Everybody good? Okay, let's go. Okay, that would be good.
Somebody go. No, it's okay.
Area that we're going to talk about is right in here. So that's space here.
That's really pretty.
And you can fill in back there as well. Just,
Oh my Lord. That is fancy.
just come on and make yourself at home.
Oh, you're okay, all right, great. Oh, you're security, okay, all right, got it. I'm gonna rest easy now.
Okay, I want you to focus on this particular area right here, this mosaic. The individual that is responsible for a lot of the mosaics, the stained glass, and the brass works is a gentleman called Peter Recker. Peter Recker was from Germany, and he was captured during World War II. He was an artist, but he chose to dedicate his life to religious art after he was freed after the war. And he first commission that he had was restoring the murals behind the tomb of St. Peter in Rome. So he restored the mosaic work at the tomb of St. Peter in Rome in Italy. And at a very young age, he got that commission. And a part of that commission, when he examined that work, it is probably, I say, it's a Byzantine era work. So it is a very early work. One of the earliest images of Christ known in existence is part of that whole deal. And if you were to Google that, you'll find later that a lot of that symbolism that he saw in that work, he actually ultimately ended up doing here. There was he had a very famous mentor, a guy by the name of Johann Recker, and he was a Dutch artist, but is very influential in what's called the modernistic movement and the Art Nouveau movement at the time. And so he apprenticed under this gentleman, and during the last 10 years of Recker's life, he concentrated on mosaics. So Peter Recker got a strong influence of his mosaic work from Johann Recker. And so this is one of the works that he did. We call it the Shrine of the Infant of Prague, which is the statue that you see. It has a long history going back to the 15th century in Roman Catholic faith, but it is the child Christ. And then the mural here, of course, is the Adoration, where you have the three wise men presenting gifts to the king. All of these stones, which you can see, are very, very small. When Recker created this mosaic, he did not trace it on the wall in place of stones. He had buckets of stones lined up here, and he literally, one by one, placed every one of those stones, anticipating in his mind the shadows, the light shafts, the camels, which are all different, the gold banding on the kings, and how he could do that from his mind, from a bucket on the floor to this presentation is remarkable. And as you go through the church, you'll see that there's a lot of gold embellishments. What you think is gold and looks like gold is gold. So these are priceless works. So anyway, any questions about the adoration? Because that's a big deal.
How long did it take him to do that?
I know that he was here at St. Rita for a couple of years. He was living in Milwaukee at the time, and he got several commissions up in Milwaukee. He lived in the United States between 1950 and 1962, and so he did our church in 58, but he was here for quite some time. I've talked to parishioners that were here at the time that were watching him with the buckets, and he was here for quite some time. So, but just a remarkable piece of work, we think. And right now, St. Rita is under consideration for being nominated to be on the National Register of Historic Places. We've already passed the nod with the state of Indiana, so we're going on to the national right now, and we anticipate that designation probably sometime over the next 12 or 14 months. So, yes?
What's the price, is that alabaster or ivory or?
It's a plaster, I think. It's inlaid, plaster. Now, this one here, now, there was another one in the chapel that you just left. That was our original infant of Prague that came from the original church behind us. So we kept that one, and this was a new one that was designed here. And like I say, Google that, infant of Prague, and you'll find that it has a long tradition in religious structures. They've been, like I say, 15th century. They thought it brought wealth and prosperity to those who faced it directly. So I kind of, go by there on a regular basis. So I'm still waiting for those gifts. So anyway, let's proceed over to the next area, which is the main sacristy or main altar mosaic. And this is where you really see the mastery of Peter Recker. You see the mid-century modern elements because, as I said, this is not like an ecclesiastical church. So if you can imagine that poor man who was already beyond 60 when he was here doing this work. And one notable feature about the works, and I probably should have addressed it when I was there, is that since our church was built by a very poor African American community, and our priest, who was not African American, but he wanted us to know that everything in this church has some sort of nod to the African American. He notably made sure that the complexion of that African king stood out as being a person of color who was there adoring Christ at his birth. And if you go here, the main mosaic goes back somewhat to what Peter Recker worked on in the tomb of St. Peter, because the image that you see is very close to that image of that image at St. Peter's. The way the figure, this is like the coming of Elijah, where the prophet Elijah was taken up by a chariot and ascended into heaven. You can see the ropes that come down from the ceiling and they dip and they go back up. That is a tribute to the Negro spiritual swing low, sweet chariot. So you go low and you go back up. And you can see the brilliance of Peter Recker in that mural. The light shafts, the way that that's interwoven into that mosaic. To do that from a 5-gallon bucket to this structure with no piece bigger than this is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. And you notice that on either side we have the onyx Porto Negro marble going all the way up. And if you look closely, you can see that the lines in the marble are all interconnecting. They go all the way up, and that's called booked marble. That means that the marble that constructed those panels were all cut out of the same stone, because that's the only way that you can match the veining on the marble. So the care and expertise that was utilized to make this thing happen is really remarkable. And also notice we have a light canopy above, very unusual for this time, 1958, and it always shines light on the tabernacle. Now in the Christian faith, the tabernacle is where the priest keeps the host concentrated items for the service. That particular tabernacle is a design of Peter Recker also. He was a master bronze worker, goldsmith, as well as a mosaic artist, you see. That tabernacle was designed by Recker, and it was shipped off to Cologne, Germany, and a goldsmith made it in Cologne, Germany in 58 and shipped it back to us. It has, it is made to be like the Ark of the Covenant, and it is borne by angels holding up the Ark. The interior of it is made like the Old Testament that Moses prescribed, that it have wood lined with satin. Ours is wood lined with satin, just like Moses prescribed. And some other notable things that you'll see here is the beautiful gold mosaic around the steps. And like I say, if it looks like gold, it is gold. And the marble work is done by Dominic Santarosa, the Italian immigrant. The seats that you see along the side, those are actual seats that are used by the altar boys during the service. They're all carved out of a solid piece of Carrara marble. I sat on those seats a lot. Believe it or not, I was an altar boy. Yes.
Of all the Catholic churches I've been in, I think this is the first that doesn't have a crucifix behind the altar. I think that's, I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, was there any controversy with
No,
that,
because
or?
we have enough crucifixes around.
Right, but I mean,
No, but
a
no,
moment I
we
vision, there's
chose,
always one.
we were different. St.
Yeah.
Rita is different than any other parish that you will ever go into. Like I say, for the reasons that I specified, we did not want to be like others because of our struggle. We wanted to be different, and we wanted to show people that we had creativity, that we had the presence of mind to think three-dimensionally about everything that we did, and there's underlying things pretty much to everything that you're going to see. Something that you probably can't see easily, at the top of that tabernacle, there is a band of ebony wood interwoven with gold. And the symbolism there is many races adoring at one place. So the interweaving of cultures, and that was the intent of that design. And so I think it's quite remarkable. You're more than welcome to come up here and get a closer look at the floor, and we can kind of single file around this way, and we'll go up there, you can look at the floor and see the intricacy of the design of the floor if you want to. These are the original mid-century chairs that were designed in 58. We're still in use today. We use them every service. And then as you go up here, take a look at these etched glass windows that you see around the church. Again, a nod to modernism. You know, it's not like your traditional etched glass that you would see at a Catholic church or any church, but there's symbolism in each one of those windows. If you look at them as you come up, you'll see fish in there, fish swimming. And some of you might be familiar about the whole thing. You give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. And so you have the fishes swimming, and then fish were always utilized in the Old and New Testament for many things. You'll see 3 circles embossed over each other, symbolizing the Trinity as known in the Catholic and Christian faith, really, not just Catholic. You know, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. You have the 3 circles that symbolize that. But this kind of stuff going on in 58 was pretty outstanding. And we've changed nothing since then, except try to keep this place up to date. St. Rita herself was a person who became, elevated to sainthood by the Pope, because the story about St. Rita, she was an abused wife, and she survived all of that. She dedicated her life to the church after her husband met his demise. And when she dedicated her life to the church, she had a wound that appeared in her forehead that never healed for the rest of her life. And it was, in the faith, it was thought that she was bearing the crown of thorns of Jesus. And as you look at this rosette down here, this is called the Saint Rita rose, and it is a crown with the flowers in the middle and the thorn, and that's the symbol for Saint Rita. When the church was built, the priest that I served Mass for, he indicated to me that there is a secondary relic of Saint Rita in a canister underneath this design. So when we have service here, we pay homage to that. There is also a relic, a primary relic of Saint Rita in the altar here above, and that's kind of something that they do in the Catholic faith. Something that was personally belonged to or attached to the saint is in that stone there. So there's power in the stone. So if you want to come on up and get a closer look, if you don't, that's fine. I can continue to narrate, but if you do want to see it, just come up this way and take a closer look. I want you to notice that the bronze work is all giving nod to modernism. That's all Peter Recker stuff there. His name is embroidered into the mosaic at the bottom of the mosaic here. You can actually see Peter Recker's signature into the stone. And all of this stonework, this Carrara marble stonework, was done by Dominic Santa Rosa and his son. Just gorgeous stuff. And so and then you can see the light canopy a lot better here too. Behind here is what's called the Sacristy, and this is where the priest would prepare the sacraments for the Mass. There's beautiful windows back there, but we're not going to be able to tour back there because it's just too many of us. And but back there is some pretty cool things too. In the faith, there is a special sink that's back there that goes directly to the earth, because the belief is that if you prepare the sacraments and they're blessed by the priest and become holy, we don't want to throw them in the sink, let them go to the sewer. We have a special sink here that goes directly into the ground, so it can actually show reverence to the sacrament. So that's back there, and you'll see those in many Catholic churches. And like I said, I'm going to try to keep this more on an architectural basis, but it's kind of hard to do when a lot of this stuff was made specifically for the faith. Hello, Judy. And then this bronze diamond, or I guess triangle that you see back here is called an ambrye. It is where the sacred oils are kept, and you'll see those in Catholic churches as well, but they're always recessed into the wall, and they're used for special services, rites of the dying. If a priest were to go out and anoint a sick person, then he would bring sacred oils with him, and those are kept in the ambrye. Any questions so far? I think Peter Recker was quite the guy. Yeah, he's quite the guy, and he is internationally known for his work in Rome. And so we're really lucky to get him as Saint Rita for what he did for us with his.
So you said y'all still have service today?
Oh yes, we have services 2 or 3 times a week. Oh yeah, we're a very active congregation. 11 o'clock on Sunday, if you're not doing anything, pop on in and see how we do things. Yes, Debbie.
Do you have any idea how much money was raised in order to do this at the time? I mean,
I don't know. Dr. Van, do you know?
No, but we did receive monthly papers on how much that was donated, even down to the children.
Yeah, everybody.
I was a child. And you get a monthly statement, but you also get at the end of the year, and I was proud that year that I had put in 33 cents.
Oh.
My money for 33 Sundays out of 52.
No, greatly. But at any rate, so did everybody see the fishes and the circles, and you can see the symbolism that's there? I think I probably initiated every one of these seats. And back then, the service was in Latin, This was pre-Vatican, so it was in Latin, so I had to learn the Latin service, and then, of course, in '65, it went to English. And I can still quote some of that Latin today.
I think the candle holder back here is interesting.
Yes,
Like a bird.
and it matches that crucifix over there. It's all that angular design. See, we were really wanting to emphasize the modern movement in the church. And if you look at the altar railing, when you come down, you'll see that it's all in modern script. It's not in the curly Q script that you see in most churches. And this is where, when the little girls and boys would come down and have their little veils on, they would kneel along this rail, and this is where they would receive their first communion. And so I was already too old when I came over here. I'd already been initiated over at St. Bridget's over on West Street. But I think it's just a fabulous space, and just something that you really don't see, and we get a lot of interest from the historic community as a result of having this mid-century, as I call it, a mid-century masterpiece, because that's really what it is. So anyway, we'll keep proceeding.
This is beautiful too.
Oh, yes, that's all done out of the same Carrara marble stone. All of this matching was all done at the same time. The oratory, the seats, the steps, all done at the same time. And then, of course, like I say, Santa Rosa did all this marble work. And the priest was so proud of this building, as well as the parishioners were, that when our school was in full operation, which I graduated from in 1960-something, close to 1970, but all of the buildings on our campus were connected by underground walkway. So the kids did not have to get wet when they came to church or school or nursery. We had the first day nursery and kindergarten in the archdiocese. We had a nursery in the 1950s.
Wow.
So we were trying to really take care of people, so that's one of the first that I said I wouldn't talk about, but that's one I had to just throw in there.
What about the symbolism for the window back there? That's pretty-
Now that window, I was here when that was installed, because not only is it a welcoming to the people entering the church, it is also the backdrop for the celebrants of the Mass. When they're looking out over the congregation, you've got that mosaic back there, that stained glass panel that was designed by Recker as well, and it is the Holy Spirit descending in the form of a dove, which is scriptural as well, and that's what that depicts. And so, and it changes color throughout the day, in the light. It looks different all the time, and I never get tired of looking at it because it just changes all the time. But another wonderful piece of architectural significance from a stylistic perspective. And you'll see that, like I said, the writing on the stone there, as well as all the doors and all of that is in the modern script. You see all the etched doors that we have, everything is in that modern script. And so let's take a look at the last Recker mosaic that I'm going to share with you. And this is another magnificent work from Peter Recker. And this is our baptistry, where little babies get baptized. And it's in the same, the actual font is in the Verde marble that composes the altar as well. It's all the green Verde marble. And if you notice from a design perspective, from the architecture, it is the only place here that you will see steps going down. And that obviously gives emphasis that you are descending into the water. And at the base of this, you have fish swimming in a circle, seeking each other, and it's how was depicted, Christ pursuing the faith, or faith pursuing Christ, but it's in a circular pattern that never ends. And this is St. Philip baptizing the Ethiopian. And the nod here to the African American history is that the Ethiopian being baptized symbolizes that African persons and persons of African descent have been part of Christianity from the very beginning. And so that was emphasized in this mosaic. But the detail, when you look at this, how he made that tile look like the water is flowing at the bottom. You've got the Holy Spirit descending again at the top. And you've got the Africans in the background, the horses, the carriage. I mean, that's just unbelievable to do that with small pieces of stone. He had a picture of what he wanted right here, and he had his 5-gallon buckets here, and he literally picked up a stone and placed it one by one, transferring from his mind this image with no tracings, no drawings, no nothing. Unbelievable. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any photographs of him creating this?
They probably do in our archives. We had a teacher, a beloved teacher, that was my 5th grade teacher, who saved everything. She had things that we didn't know, but she's given that collection to her sons, and they have just recently done a 45-minute documentary about St. Rita that has a lot of those original historical pictures, but I would not be surprised if there are pictures of him working in that archive. So right now we're putting that archive online and digitalizing it. There are thousands of images, so it's going to take us a while to do that. But visit with us in the future. We'll see if there's going to be some presentations, hopefully at Landmarks, which I think we have a Landmarks person here. Is that Eunice? Yes. Good to meet you. Yes, that's Eunice Trotter from Landmarks, and she was very important at the Indianapolis Recorder for many, many years, and everybody knows Miss Trotter. And again, you see another ambry there with the oils, and but just, I think this is a remarkable work. It's photographed a lot, and we get a lot of requests from it from historic places that want to see some of Peter Recker's work, and we don't think there's any finer work in the country of Peter Recker works than we have here at St. Rita. So obviously I'm a little bit prejudiced, but that comes with the territory. I'm going to talk about one more thing, and then I'm going to turn over the tour for Dr. Van to share with you some information about the windows and the altars along the side of the building. And that is the Stations of the Cross that you see here. In Catholic faith, they always have the Stations of the Cross, and it symbolizes Christ's passion, how he was, brought up on charges, crucified, rose. These are very special. They were made in Italy, but all of the wood was sourced in Israel along the original way of the cross. And they picked ancient trees that would have been alive at the time of Christ. So that's what you see.
Wow. That is. So who did the carving, do you know?
Like I said, they hired an artist in Italy. They were actually carved in Italy, but I don't know the carvers. But it was definitely in Italy, and but the wood they sourced from Israel, and the wood is called linden wood, L-I-N-D-E-N, and they had linden wood trees that they sourced, and they were sent over to Tyrol, which is in northern Italy, and then shipped back to St. Rita. But all out of the ancient trees, all those trees were over 1,800 and 2,000 years old. So fantastic. Any questions about anything so far? Like I said, when you go out, please take a look at that stained glass back there, because it is very impressive. And you can imagine on a sunny day having a light stream through there, and if you're participating in the service, you have that beautiful backdrop to look at. And I always cherished it when I was a little altar boy, and it's amazing what 50, 60 years will do. Yes, I will be 70, my next birthday. But I'm still up here doing my thing, so. Okay, well, very good. Well, I'm going to let Dr. Van say a few words about what you see along the way, and then we'll actually exit out the back doors at the end of the tour. I do have a donation box at the end of there that if you're so moved and you want to help us with the capital campaign, you know, we'll throw in a couple bucks or whatever you feel like you might want to contribute. It's certainly not something that you have to do, but we're definitely giving you that opportunity should you choose to do so. Yes?
Vivian gave me some of these to pass out when you're ready.
Oh, okay, yes, so after Dr. Van gets done, we'll actually go out through the back, and as you exit the church, you can take note of the limestone carvings on the left. That's a carving of St. Rita that's on the outside of the church. And then there's several steps that lead down on the right going toward the bell tower. And if you're so moved, at the bottom of that steps on your right as you exit, there is a brick that is installed into the wall of the church. And it was presented to us during the Eisenhower administration. It is a brick from the original portion of the White House that was built by slaves. And so, it's there. Okay, Dr. Van, do your thing.
All right, well, before that, the brick is not the Notre Dame color, it's red.
No. That's right. It is distinctly different than a Notre Dame brick because it is handmade brick that was in Washington, D.C., that portion of our capital that was made by enslaved Americans. And so we have a commemorative plaque as well as one of those bricks from that section. Again, the theme, paying homage.
Paying homage, and
Yeah.
then I need to be corrected if wrong, but I think our representative was Jacobs. The
Oh,
senior,
Andy Jacobs.
the senior Jacobs.
Senior
Yes.
Jacobs, yes, he interfaced for that, and we were happy to receive that. I know that we had a special blessing of it by Father Strange, and so, just a lot of history around here. A lot of neat
It's
things.
a tremendous amount of history, so no one ever needs to say, I don't have anything to do. Because if you really wanted to, you could take all of the churches on the east side of town. You could take all of the churches that were built when the KKK was in power, especially St. Joan of Arc, which I think was maybe 1 or 2 years before us, and then come around full circle. But to get to the windows, as much as I can, we're on the north side of the church. And we have the Blessed Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus, Joseph, and St. Rita. And then farther on down, we have Mother Theodore Gurren, okay? And some of you may know that particular story. But the windows on the north side of the building, I should start with the door, with the quote for Melchizedek, which if you listen to the gospel, you have heard that. And then all of the, from Aaron, Noah, Abel, we start with Abel, Aaron, Noble, and the rest of the prophets, that is what the window depicts. And then we have, by the way, these triangular pieces of marble are altars. They were a part of the altar. After Vatican II, masses weren't said here, but they are there for a specific reason. And but we also, on the south side of the church, over here, over on the far side over there, represents any time after, okay? And we would have Pope Gregory and some of the other more official personages who lived during the time after the prophets, when you can always find out information, and you keep hearing from these different people in the Gospels and in the epistles before the Gospel, okay? For those of you who have grandchildren, or you're interested in research yourself, or you just want to know the story. For example, starting out with the story of Abel, going on to Moses and Aaron. My recommendation for easy reading is a contemporary English version. It's called the Bible Now. And if you have children, grandchildren, who are not necessarily overly enthusiastic about reading, they're short. The information in the book for each topic, they're short and to the point, and it would give a good background. Okay? I do recommend it. This is from the American Bible Association. It has 101 stories related to why Jesus used the prophets, and also told parables so that he could get his point across in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. Now, that's about as much as I can give you, not to whet your curiosity, but you can get started on it. Do you have any questions? If not, personally, I thank you for coming.
I do have one question. Where's
Yes.
your confessional?
Oh, the confessional? Well, we have more than one.
Well, yeah,
There's, we probably need more than one. Okay, there's a series back here, right over there, behind the organ was a confessional. Those of you who've been around more than 30 days, you know that we don't necessarily use that as much as we could. There's another one back over there,
There's
okay?
three.
And then here's another, yeah, okay. So we do have them.
I,
We do have them.
we just have one.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
And so,
yes.
take a look at those windows as you come through here, because they're all beautiful. They're all Recker designed as well. Like I say, the New Testament side over here, and then the Old Testament side here, and then the New Testament side over there. So those are all, New Testament saints and images in that stained glass, but make a great backdrop for the parishioners to worship here. So we're very, very blessed to have this building. We want to save it. We've been here for over 100 years, and our capital campaign is going to help us restore all the buildings, especially the bell tower, so we can get our driveway opened up. We're right in the middle of our capital campaign. I want to thank Landmarks for all of their help. They've been essential in helping us with fundraising and opportunities and grants and things of that nature. So we're doing well, but we could use some help from the outside to kind of get the money we need to make this place beautiful again, or more beautiful, I should say, because it has never not been beautiful. But